Hi guys, it's Jamie here. Welcome to the first of our January journaling journey. Here you can see that I have an old box of dog food, which I'm going to cut down to make the cover of my January journal. I'm simply cutting away the excess. Now, the advantage of using an old box is your spine is basically built for you. However, if you do want to see other ways to make journals, I do have those in the bookbinding and journal making playlist. Once I've cut away the excess that I don't need, you can see how the box makes a basic journal cover, and now it's simply a question of cutting it down to fit an average page size. My page size is A4 folded in half. I'm using a mixture of old printables that I've got leftovers of from previous projects, my new Winter Wonderland printables, and of course the journaling prompts. I'll probably even include things like leftover Christmas cards and scraps from my ever expanding scrap box. Here's the dog food box cut down to size, so the next thing I need to do is make a cover for it. To make the cover, I have two pieces of A4 or US letter size black card, and I'm simply going to join those two pieces together to make a larger piece. Now I'm adding glue all over the back of my box cover. I'm using a glue stick. It's actually got quite dried out over the Christmas period. You can use any glue you want to do this process. I prefer a glue stick because it's less likely to splodge out at the edges onto the card and make that messy. To make sure everything is adhered properly, I'm smoothing and burnishing over. Once the black card had dried, I've trimmed it down to fit around the box, cutting away the corners to make like a hospital corner so it's easier to fold. With this being cardstock, I'm adding extra strength to the journal cover, but it does also mean that you have to very gently fold that cardstock over so you don't create tears, so you just ease it into position. I'm using double-sided tape to secure the edges, and whilst that isn't necessarily the strongest way to secure the edges, because I will be using black bookbinders tape on the inside as well, the two tapes worked to make your cover quite strong. So now I'm simply going to work my way around the whole book cover and gradually, as you can see, quite gently bend everything to the shape that I want it to be. On this edge again, you can see that I'm manipulating that card up and over the original box and doing that quite gently, and then burnishing it down to get a much sharper crease or edge before folding it back out, adding my double-sided tape and again gluing that edge over. When you get to the longer edge and you get to the spine turn, you're going to want to cut a couple of slits up and make those into small triangles. This takes away excessive amounts of black cardstock, so there'll be no buckling when you turn and glue this part of your cover over. Again, you can see that once I've manipulated that black card up, I'm burnishing it to get a much tighter and stronger crease, and adding tape to each of the individual areas before folding them over and sealing everything down. And so you continue this process until the whole of that cardboard box is covered on one side. Now that it's all basically in place, I'm using my wide black bookbinders tape to again secure all the edges all the way round, including going over that spine crease. This is a flexible material type tape that's quite matte in finish, so matches your black cardstock Once you put some covers onto this, as in some patterned papers, you really can't tell the difference, and it gives you quite a neat result, but you don't have to be particularly careful when doing this, which is an advantage because I am technically not that careful when I make a journal. I have cut some panels for the inside of our journal cover that will fit with a little bit of room to spare, so that everything can close properly without any kind of restriction. I'm using my combination of double-sided tape with the inner part being filled with glue stick. Again, you can use whatever glue you prefer. As I put this down, hopefully you can see there is a small margin. I think that's mainly book tape you can see under there. But like I say, with everything being black, it matches in. This section is probably where I do a bit more than most people who make journals, in the sense that I make a spine away from the actual journal cover and then add that spine to the journal cover. This means that I punch the holes. I will be using elastic because I'm doing a Midori style journal several times, which I will demonstrate. I'm actually going to do 4 signatures, which basically means it's 4 sets of papers going into the journal as a whole. Therefore, I'm marking this spine template up so that I can punch 4 holes at the top and 4 corresponding holes at the bottom. Having drawn my line at the top and the bottom across, coming in about 1 centimetre, which is roughly half an inch, I'm now using my cutting mat as a way to mark up where those holes are going to be punched. My 4 signatures are going to be 1 centimetre apart from each other. This is the first of many punching through those holes. So I'm lining my crocodile up to those marks, punching through. Here I'm quickly checking that my template fits inside that spine area. Remember that all this additional cardboard is adding more and more strength to that journal cover. Now I'm going to cover one side of this spine template with some black cardstock. Notice that I'm being very careful not to put my double-sided tape over the actual holes, but run it in between them. I'm only covering one side because I want to be able to see those holes to be able to punch through again. This is just me checking or double checking that everything fits and is going to look neat before using those existing holes that I can see to be able to punch through the newly covered black card holes. Now that those have been punched out, I can attach this spine template to the spine area of the book cover. Again, I'm just using double-sided tape to do that. Here you can see those holes in that spine area, and those will be my template for punching through the actual book cover. Like I said, I probably overdo this, but I would rather punch the holes on a template and add the template to the book cover than risk getting crooked holes. However, often my holes and my lining up ends up being crooked anyway. From my abstract Christmas tree and snowflake printable papers that I created back in December, I have a piece of spare that I have cut to size for the outside of the spine, and I'm just simply staining those edges with some vintage photo. And then with black margins, attaching that decorative piece of paper to the spine area of the journal. And yet again, I have to use my template to re-punch those holes. I have some thin blue elasticated thread, which is going to be the way that I'm going to put the papers into this journal. So I've cut a length and a bit because we don't want anything too loose, which means that when you come to tie off on the inside, you will be tautening the elastic. If you don't put some tension into that elastic, the papers will flop about all over the place. This is how it's looking with all 4 signatures ready to have papers added to them. Before adding the front and back decorative covers, I'm going to put some ribbon down. Those will be my closure. 1 piece of ribbon at a halfway point at the front and the same at the back. I'm securing the ribbon with that bookbinder's tape because it's going to have a cover put over it as well, so it won't just be secured in place by the tape, but then there'll be a cover glued over the top, which you can see happening here. I'm just trying to line this cover piece up so that there's a reasonably regular margin of the black to the front. Make sure I'm happy with its placement before sealing it all down. I then repeat this ribbon cover process with the back cover, and that is basically the journal made. So here's how it's looking so far. One thing I do want to show you is that you do have to be careful about the page sizes that you're going to put into these signatures. And the best way I've found to overcome this is, again, to take 1 page, get it to the right size and use that as a template. And I won't even attempt to put anything into this book that is bigger than my template, though I may go for smaller because I like different layers and different levels. I've played around with this page, cutting more and more off the width and the length until I'm happy with how it sits in the journal. And as I say, that is now going to be my template size for the biggest page I would put in this journal. The advantage of doing this Midori style journal is that you can literally do pages as you go along, add them into the cover rather than put all the pages into the cover and then struggle with space and decorating issues. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in tutorial 2.